Shavua Tov, everybody, and you are listening to Havdalah Happy Hour here on the Bethel Podcast Network. I'm Ben.
I'm Jill.
Jeremy.
Shavua Tov, friends. It's good to be back here on Havdalah Happy Hour with everyone.
Special shout out to everyone watching us live on YouTube or Facebook.
That's right, with
Hi,
our
Mom.
new video capabilities.
And hopefully sound.
And sound,
Yes.
too, hopefully.
We spent the last 12 minutes troubleshooting a major sound issue. So
Tell
if you
us how
can't
it's
hear
working
us,
out for you.
Right, because I can now finally hear everyone and myself at a normal volume.
who thought having a
thought it
podcast
was
would be a
fine.
good idea? Whose idea was this anyway?
It was not Jeremy's idea. That's not true, Joe.
It was a collective idea. No, we love the
So
pod.
long ago, I don't remember whose idea it was.
We love the podcast. We've just been troubleshooting some tech issues for
It's a learning
the last
experience.
hour. Yes,
It's,
it is.
A fun time. It's good to learn these things because it is the future.
But anyway, hey, I just had a Red Bull too about an hour ago, so I'm feeling great.
Of course you did. I still have yet to try one.
Next week, we always say that.
We
Next
always
week,
say that.
next
I know.
week.
We'll
Pete,
do a
how,
taste test.
how about pizza and Red Bull?
Okay.
When we record next week.
Okay.
That
It's a
sounds
weekend.
Amazing.
Yes.
I love both of those things, although I can't really speak to the Red Bull.
Can you believe it's Thanksgiving already?
No.
Ew.
Wait, are we here next week? I think we're here next week.
I don't know.
Yeah,
What is
I
eating,
mean,
Jeremy?
yes.
Yeah, we'll be here. I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
I
we
mean,
might be. If
it's-
not, catch us the week after. We're
Right.
around. We're always here.
I'm fine to do it because I think Thanksgiving is.
I don't. I do 2 Thanksgivings.
Do you?
So
That sounds like punishment.
on Thanksgiving, I am with David's side of the family. And then Friday night of Thanksgiving weekend, I'm with my side of the family and my parents and my aunt and all my cousins who are really like my sisters and
And all your
my
assorted
brother
guests.
and his girlfriend and all the kids. And it's really fun. And then on Thanksgiving, it's all of David's cousins and aunts and uncles, which is also a lot of fun. And I host that night.
Have you ever thought about combining both of them?
It would be
Like 100 people?
I host 34 on Thanksgiving, but David's cousins, we all pitch in. It's 5 families that pitch in for everyone else, and we host at my house. And but it would be like 60 people if we combined, and I think that's
a lot.
What is your favorite Thanksgiving dish?
Not turkey. I don't even eat turkey. I don't
Mashed,
even like
mashed
turkey.
potatoes.
Is that the Tosafot Yom Tov, who was a rabbinic sage from, a long time ago? He did not believe turkey to be kosher because it is not mentioned in the Torah, and therefore his descendants do not eat it of this day.
Interesting.
Isn't it, though?
Mashed potatoes, easy for me.
I
Number
like
one.
sweet potatoes with the pecan crumble and brown sugar.
Don't they call
crumble.
that like candied potatoes? or
Yeah,
something
but
like
it's
that?
still like pureed potatoes, like mashed sweet potatoes with
yeah.
like the coating on top.
That sounds nice.
It's delicious.
And then macaroni is number 2 for me.
I make mac and cheese. I
Do you make it?
instituted
Yeah,
that
but-
last year, and they said I had to do it again.
And then how about dessert?
So, my favorite dessert on Thanksgiving is my great grandmother used to make these chocolate pies, and now my Aunt Harriet makes them, and I would forego every other ounce of food that night and eat just this chocolate pie. I don't know what's so good about it. It's probably nothing. It's probably simple, but it's probably a nostalgia thing, and it reminds me of my great grandmother. My Aunt Harriet always makes it, and it's just so good.
Mine's pie.
What
Apple
kind of
pie,
pie?
pumpkin pie.
I don't like pumpkin pie, but I would eat apple pie.
Ben?
But the chocolate pie gets me.
The only pie I do not like is rhubarb pie because that's a sin against God.
Is it? My
Apple pie is fine. I think I'm a good apple pie person.
Yeah, I mean, I love dessert in general.
Yes,
I
as do I.
I
But
love
key
dessert.
lime pie. Is
Oh,
the best
yes, I
pie.
do love
But
key
it's
lime
not
pie.
for Thanksgiving.
No.
but
Although I feel like we're having key lime pie
It
on
could be
Thanksgiving
for
this year.
Thanksgiving, though, right?
no.
Okay.
I don't
But
think
we
so.
eat the chocolate pies on the Friday night. That's our my side of the family.
So is
tradition.
Black Friday still a thing?
Oh,
like, do
yeah.
people? But I mean, where
It's not
people
as big
line
as I
up
think
because
it used to be.
because so much of it used to be Black Friday was in person and then
Mm-hmm.
Cyber Monday online. But I feel like now everyone online is doing
Yeah.
Black Friday.
We
too.
used to go to Best Buy, David, Logan, Ben, and myself.
Was that your store?
On
Were-
Thanksgiving? Like we would finish dinner,
Yes.
and when
Okay.
we used to go to David's uncle's on our way home, we would go to Best Buy and we'd see like
I
a
have
million
a
people.
recollection of my uncle and cousin leaving dinner and going to stand in some line.
Mm-hmm.
where the people would stay like all night.
Yes.
You'd stand in
I
line.
don't even think they're open anymore on Thanksgiving.
I don't know.
I thought
just
places now
remember
were open on
There
Thanksgiving.
was a hilarious trio of South Park episodes discussing this very issue, and it's very funny.
But that was the thing. You'd stay in line
I'm not
all
standing
night.
in no line. I'm not doing it.
Or people would bring tents for like one TV in the
Right.
whole store. That
Or
was
to
like
get
12.
there, you get there at like 3 in the morning from when they open at 7
But
on
also,
Friday.
There was like a madhouse
sounds
and people
miserable.
ripping things out of other people's hands.
Well, not
It was like a
people- I think
madhouse.
people
Breaking
got killed.
bones
Oh, yeah,
and
for sure.
trampled.
People were
got
trampled.
trampled.
Yeah, capitalism at its finest. America.
Yay.
Now, I'll still get up early, but I'll stay in front of the computer.
Right.
And the best thing is my wife's birthday is like 3 weeks after Thanksgiving, so that's great.
Right.
I
My
get
birthday
all.
is always right around Thanksgiving, always after. So I'm usually
Oh,
still good to
yeah,
get
your
like
birthday's coming
like a
up,
good
Benjamin.
deal. And I like to buy myself a present. Nobody else should buy me presents, but I like to buy myself a
Oh.
present. Usually with a
Benjamin,
Black Friday deal.
your birthday's coming right around the
I know.
corner.
Anything fun planned?
Yes, I will not be coming to work that day.
And I'm very sad about that.
I feel like there's some companies where they actually give people the day off for their birth. Like that's
Oh, is
included in the package. Like you get your birthday off from work.
That is not in my non-existent contract.
I'm bummed.
Maybe when you renew your non-existing
Right.
contract, you can put a clause in there to have off for your birthday.
Both Hebrew and English.
Right.
So I have to tell you a couple of weeks ago, and this was actually a missed opportunity last week when we had Rabbi Sorokin on the podcast, but we received incredible feedback when you were telling stories from the Bema, looking out on the congregation.
It's a fun time.
Yes. So we have to. I made a promise to one of our texters, which, by the way, if you want to text the show, go ahead and go to our podcast
nice.
page, or you can leave us a message on our YouTube or Facebook page if you're watching this live. People wanted to hear more stories. So I feel like
I bet you did.
I feel like both of you work such different angles from
yes and
within
no.
the synagogue. Well, yes, all of us
We
overlap.
overlap, yeah. for
Correct.
sure.
But at the same time, I feel like, Ben, there has to be one or two other things that pop out. And then, Joe, I'm
I've got
coming
some
to you
great
in a minute.
cemetery story.
But give us, so for our listeners who might not know, in addition to everything you do on the ritual side at the shul, you also run our cemetery.
Which I consider to be a ritual portfolio item. So,
Yeah.
But
yeah.
many people might think they're separate when in
Yeah.
fact there's
I've never seen them really separately. I did not do it when I first came to Bethel. It was not part of my job. It became part of my job. I don't know what is time. A couple of years ago.
What is time?
Yeah.
how many times a week does he say that?
Not every day, multiple times a day, because I no longer believe it's true. But it's been a little while since I've been running the cemetery, and it's never something I thought I'd be doing, but has been both challenging and very rewarding.
You're really good at it.
Oh well, thank you.
So what's been the biggest surprise, maybe, if that's even the right word, since you started running the cemetery?
That's a good question. The biggest surprise.
Or something maybe you weren't
Well,
expecting?
here's what I am sort of surprised by is the number of people who have not really thought about like pre-planning. The number of people who have purchased graves because they've needed them.
My so and so died. The
right.
funeral's in a day and a half. I
Right.
need a plot.
And for some people, okay, that kind of makes sense. I guess if it was like a sudden thing, but like the amount of people who for the person had been like of advanced years
Sure.
and had been like not doing well, and they still like hadn't really thought about it, and that's like surprising to me. Although I am starting to see a lot more pre-planning these days, and I don't know. I think that sort of jumped actually after COVID.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. So that's been interesting. I get these magazines and these like newsletters that I, by the way, have not subscribed to. They just like appear, at the synagogue, and they're like one of them is called like Cemetery and Cremation Monthly, and the other is like the Funeral something newsletter.
So I feel like while you take a breath, we should use this opportunity for a quick PSA, all joking aside. If you have not picked out a burial plot or thought about that, please contact Ben or Yvonne at Bethel by calling 410-484-0411. Again, call Ben or Yvonne, 410-484-0411.
And Mom and Dad, I know you're listening. Thanks for doing it.
But no,
My,
all-
par-
a
my
big act of
parents did it, and
kindness.
it's.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a big gift to my brother
is.
and
It's a
to me
huge
that my
gift.
parents did that because it's one less burden. I'm already going to be grieving it's one less thing that I have to think, oh my gosh, what?
Correct. But seriously, all joking aside, legitimately
It's
a PSA, if you...
It's a selfless gift that you give to your loved ones.
And if you haven't thought about doing it, seriously, give us a call or give Ben. You don't. I can't help you, or you can't help. But give Ben or Yvonne a call 410-484-0411. But again, that's not why we came on to talk about.
No.
But so biggest, not surprise, but something unexpected within the cemetery world.
I think unexpected. Well, so it doesn't really apply to sort of Beth L's Memorial Park because we have pretty established sort of guidelines. But in those magazines, I'll read about like current trends and like what's popular.
A cemetery trend?
Yeah.
Okay.
So things like cremation used to be like the going very high, and it's coming down now. The new thing is like green burials. But one of the things that I read
Is this like a water cremation? I've been reading in the news.
Alkaline hydrolysis.
So in the Baltimore news, there's a funeral home, at least one of them, I think, in Baltimore City, and there's something very controversial that they're
So it
doing.
is controversial now. Alkaline hydrolysis. It's not legal in all states. I think actually very few states it's legal currently, although it's been on the ballot in a number of states, and it's basically a better form of cremation. It doesn't use a lot of the same energy as traditional cremation does, but it's been used a lot more in the pet world
Okay.
than for humans. But that is also a thing but the thing that that I saw once in one of these magazines. So because cremation is prohibited by Jewish law, we don't really deal with it. So I know it's not like a big thing for me. But in these magazines, there's like all these ads in the back for like the newest urns that are like the best urns that are on sale. But the one that like creeped me out the most was you can get an urn that is 3D printed in the shape of the head of your loved one.
Really?
Yes. And like I saw a picture of it, and it is very disturbing. Wait, I'm going to see if I can pull one up for you. I don't know if that's like a surprise, but it definitely was something that was like I was not expecting to happen. And thankfully, I've not had to deal with it because, again, we don't do that.
And it's essentially, it's a full-time job when you're talking about managing a cemetery. I mean, in addition to the phone calls and the burials that come up that aren't planned, there are things that you plan for. So that's just creepy. Can you hold it up to the camera?
Oh.
Not
So
gonna
our
do that.
Google
If
it,
you wanna see one,
guys.
just Google it.
But there's day to day, there's constant upkeep,
Yeah,
there's
sure.
planning, there's really a lot of work. And I've been out with you a few times at the cemetery.
I'm not freaked out by cemeteries. I happen to find them to be calming,
Sure.
and also I do think that the Bethel Cemetery is a beautiful. It's a
Incredible.
memorial
It's
park,
very beautiful.
and it really is.
Peaceful.
For anyone who's never been there before, we only at our memorial park there, except in the family
Just a little
plot, it's only footstones.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben, you explained to me the other day why,
It was
and I
done-
think it's very sweet and kind reason.
Yeah, Rabbi Agus, of blessed memory, had a vision for the cemetery, and he used to say the Jewish tradition teaches us that everybody is equal in death, and he wanted the cemetery to sort of reflect that equality. So
everyone has the same footstone, and like when I go to visit my grandparents at a different cemetery, they have headstones, and some of them are opulent, and
such things are for the living.
and there's brass stars, and they're some of them are beautiful, and some are so much more simple, but it doesn't feel very equal. And I just love when you go to our memorial park, it feels, also another thing I like about it is part of it feels very old, and then part of it feels very modern and current. And I just think that it's such I'm never like creeped out when I'm there. I just think it's a really beautiful place. I really like our memorial park. Not to be morbid or anything, but I like going there.
It's important to talk about.
And also now that I've worked here for so long, I see some of the people who's like I know their family, and it's, I don't know, it feels good to kind of visit there. And
well, it's definitely also a touchstone of Bethel's history. Right? I mean, not only just like our families, but also our clergy. Rabbi Agus is there, Rabbi Loeb is there, Cantor Ammerman is there, and it's these touchstones are things that keep us connected to our community altogether. It's nice.
So one of the comments that just came in live, and I can't tell if this is a comment or a complaint, but it just flashed up on the screen. what can you do to, I'm trying to paraphrase what's written here. What can you do to get people's cell phones to stop going off during services?
Well, okay.
So
I'm assuming that's a complaint.
It's a complaint for me too. I have a huge issue with it. I don't understand why it is so difficult to just turn off your phone or turn it to silent during services. Like on Shabbat, I don't even know where my phone is because I turn it off and on Friday night and I put it wherever I put it, and then it comes back on Saturday night. I have no idea where it is. And I actually think there's something really nice about having one day in our lives to just like put that stuff aside, right? And just sort of exist and be with your family, be with your friends, be with nature, be with whatever. But don't.
Or how about just the 2 hours you're in services? Just leave it in your car.
It's not difficult. So I would like to institute a knas. It's a fine. Every time a phone goes off, you should have to pay a certain amount of money. We'll put it to tzedakah. I think public shaming is really the answer to the question. Unfortunately, Jewish tradition prohibits this.
Well, so for those who don't come to services every Saturday, I do come to services probably 49 out of 52 Saturdays a year. And I sit in the front row next to Ben, unless Ben is on the bima reading Torah. So if Ben and I are sitting next to each other and a cell phone goes off, we simultaneously whip our heads
I'll
around.
know too. I know who it is.
But if Ben's on the bima, he stays so focused.
So
but
you can
I
follow
tell-
his eyes.
But I can tell the difference. I can see he'll be reading Torah and I'll hear a phone and I see his eyes and then I do it whipping up for both of us.
This was several years ago at this point now. It was over the summer. I remember because it was Parshat Va'etchanan, and that's one of the parshiot where we read the 10 Commandments. I remember I was reading the 10 Commandments, and a phone goes off in the middle of it, and I stopped.
Thou shalt not have their cell phone on and shul.
I looked at the person, and I waited for it to go off, and of course,
There's that mad
It would not
dash.
happen if you just turned it off to begin
Correct.
with. And I stopped and I waited because it was incredibly disrespectful. And having going off during one of these sort of like seminal readings of the Torah is one, distracting to me, but also extremely disrespectful to everybody else who's in services and to Hakadosh Baruch Hu, to God, who would like you to talk to God and not other people on your phone.
Right.
And it was, so I stopped and I waited and then I started the reading again. And I think it was over the summer. So I think it was only just like Rabbi Sorokin and I were there. I think Kendra King was on vacation, or it might have been on the Israel trip with Rabbi Shor. This was years and years and years ago. And I think she had like addressed it afterwards. But it's a real problem for me. It's very distracting.
It's a real Shonda.
It's a real Shonda.
Oh, so we might revisit this in a minute. So when I'm in services, I normally sit in the back row. So I have a different view from both of you when it goes off. And from the back, you watch that mad panic. I remember it was either this summer, it may have been the summer before, right in the middle of the Shema. Not only did someone's phone go off, but it was the ringtone for a Beyonce song. Oh, right during the Shema. And again, you just watched the panic and then the anger on that person's family or even the people. Because you will have people turn around and do what you two do, who will just turn around and stare. And then what you have, you have the person who will just look at them and do we call it, I got to look for the right button on here. We call it the grunt, where they'll just go, Do you know the one I'm talking about? The grandmother grunt. Right. Yes, that. Which you can hear that all the way across the sanction. But no joke, right in the middle of the Shema, here came a Beyonce song.
It's all preventable. All you got to do is turn that phone to silent. And if you don't know, ask someone or just leave it in your car. I think for, a couple of hours on Shabbat morning, you'll be all right.
I do keep mine with me in case, God forbid, there is an emergency.
Well,
God
you're the
forbid.
Synagogue's representative.
Correct.
So that's sort of
I'm taking one for the team.
I don't love it, but I do understand the necessity for it. And that's a little different, and even for like a doctor, but also like Vibrate exists.
But have you ever heard mine beep?
No,
never.
No, I've never heard Jill's.
It's on silent all the time. The only thing that is on emergency bypass are my kids.
But it's still on Vibrate.
I recognize adults.
It's still on Vibrate.
No, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
so it's still not going to ring. So the only other user-submitted comment that we will read, because it comes from our good friend Miriam
Oh,
Hey, Miriam.
in Tel Aviv. Hi, Miriam, who's actually watching on the live feed tonight. She wants to know, with Hanukkah coming up, how many jelly donuts do you plan on ordering for the synagogue? Jill,
That's
I
an
think
interesting question.
I
Jill and
think
I
this
once
goes
did
right to
this.
Jill's arena for this.
And we went to pick them up. And
We
it was
did.
boxes and
Because,
boxes
but
and
that was with
boxes.
our joint Hanukkah.
Oh, right. And also they were the donut holes. They weren't the full size
And I
donut.
feel like lately the religious school, they've been, and preschool have been going right to Lindsay, who's our kitchen manager, and just ordering straight through him. But hundreds.
Good question, though,
Hundreds.
That is
Miriam.
a good question.
And it depends if we do munchkins or donuts.
Munchkins is a waste of time.
But agree.
We should just get full size donuts.
Souf gagnotte. Yep.
Yeah, and I love them. I'm a big fan of all donuts in general, but I also have a love for the jelly donut.
Mm-hmm.
So wait, I know we're running short on time, but we're getting some good engagement, I'll say. Not quite sure some of the comments we're getting, but I will read off the only other one that appears to be in a question form. Ben, what is the longest high holiday sermon that you have ever heard? I guess they're asking how long in minutes. What is the
time?
what is the record for the? Sorry, I'm translating someone that's probably been indulging in Havdalah happy hour for multiple hours right now. But
I don't have a problem with
I
that.
think what they're asking for, what they're trying to say, again, apologies, I'm trying to translate it. What on record is the longest high holiday sermon
that
at
I've
Bethel?
listened to, or
that-
like in general?
I
Because
guess
if it's
that
in
we've
general,
heard.
That's a different story. The one that the truth is, Rabbi Schwartz is very conscious about the timing of services. So for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, he still is very mindful. We have certain things that we need to get through, and we have like a rough schedule. And the truth is that schedule is mostly like educated guesses.
Sure.
But we're fairly certain that like the Torah service will start at X time. We're pretty certain that the sermon will start around this time, and Yizkor will be around this time. And Rabbi Schwartz is conscious of those times, and so I know he does his best to not really speak at length. And I know his Yom Kippur sermons are a little longer than like a regular Shabbat sermon.
But we're not talking hours. I've never heard it.
No, I don't think I've heard. I would think we would be hard pressed to find a record of a sermon going over 20 minutes.
Yeah. And again, for
Maybe I don't even think a half hour we've hit.
yeah,
No.
sorry, we don't have any. I guess our listeners could probably Google and
But I
find
do
out at other
have
synagogues.
some tapes, not of high holiday sermons, but I do have some lectures of Rabbi Agus. He used to give lectures to the men's club on Sunday mornings for breakfast.
How long were those?
Usually about an hour.
Okay.
But fascinating topics. Rabbi Agus was a brilliant scholar and was able to speak intelligently on many different topics, and he did. And so sometimes when I'm alone in my office and like something to listen to, I'm not feeling the music, I like to listen to some of his lectures.
So I did my homework assignment last week, and I did add in some music for the last segment of the podcast. You guys know what?
Regular music.
This is not our regular music.
We've used this music before.
Isn't this ours? Yeah.
This is now our Shonda music.
Oh, all right. It's a
So-
little peppy
We
for
have
Shonda.
used this for Shonda.
Yeah, I recognize this.
We've
don't
I
used
feel
know
this
like
music
we've used it for
but
something
not
else.
but
Shonda.
for sure we have used it.
Well, with that being said, guess what time it is, guys?
Shonda of the week. Ben,
Oh, I don't want to go first.
Jeremy.
Jeremy should have to go first. I went first last time.
Shonda,
That might not be true.
I feel like it was a pretty good week for the most part, but my Shonda would just be, we might not all agree whether it's political, whether it's religious, regardless of what it is, but just be respectful of people, whether you're friends, family, neighbors, especially neighbors. Also, don't start doing construction at your house before 7 o'clock on the weekends.
Is that allowed? I didn't think that was allowed.
Well, we have an HOA, but still, there are, not everybody always abides by that. But again, for my neighbors who are listening, there is not one specific thing, but just hear weird stories as we go through the week. But it's okay to go to your family's house if they voted for someone different than you in their most
The
recent
rhetoric is
election.
really
Yeah,
shocking
like
to me.
don't not show up at Thanksgiving because someone voted a certain way,
No, you
and
don't
just
show up
be
because of
kind.
your
And,
crazy uncle.
or if you don't like the macaroni or the mashed, you don't show up for that type of stuff. But put all that on the side and have a good week with your family and friends and neighbors, and no construction or power tools before 7 o'clock, please.
Okay.
I don't even know, was that even a Shonda? That was more like another PSA.
That's okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
the I guess the shameful rhetoric is the Shonda.
Yes, that's what I was trying to say. Okay. Ben, Jill, Ben.
For me, and this is like kind of a good Shonda, but also not a good Shonda. We've been playing in the display cases this past week because we've been.
Yes, we have.
We got a lovely new sculpture that made its way here to Bethel.
Heavy
It is
sculpture.
heavy. It is enormous.
I know, I carried it in
Jeremy
from
had to carry it
outside.
to the parking lot. And
But it
what's
looked-
the Shonda is that we're a little bit out of space. So,
But Ben, it looks
I know.
incredible.
Where is it?
Well, that was sort of the problem is we were trying to find a home for it because it came on this. It had a pedestal with it
Oh,
already.
I saw that Andy was wheeling in the pedestal.
Yeah, well, I was carrying the 200-pound piece.
We can't put it on the pedestal because the children on Sunday will knock it over for sure, and so we can't put it on there. It's not secure enough for it. So we had to find a new place for it. The problem is the thing is enormous, like it's enormous, and so our display.
But when it was
cases-
described to me, it's smaller than I had envisioned.
well, I
by
saw
the
a
person
photo
who
of
donated it,
and I
who-
feel like the photo
Hi.
I saw of it was also like I didn't think it was as big as it actually is.
I mean, I thought it was bigger based on the description.
Now,
When
did
I
you think it
spoke,
was like that Yadro Moses, the ceramic one.
I thought it was a life-size Moses when it was
That
described
would be
to
a
me.
problem. That okay, fine. Life-size Moses can't knock that down.
It's actually beautiful.
It's a beautiful sculpture. I just like the Shonda for me is that we're like running out.
Where are
of
we going to
room.
put it?
And now we're having to play musical showcases, and that can get a little frustrating. But I think we found a pretty decent solution.
I love it.
So we're gonna find hopefully something that'll help elevate it a little bit, and I think we'll be okay.
Jill,
So just to quickly follow up on my TMJ Shonda from last week, I'm definitely moving in the right direction, and I'm feeling better. Dr. Sugarman was right.
Did you get that night guard?
I did.
How's it working out?
I used it 1 or 2
What
nights.
is it?
I had like a night guard, but I don't
like a retainer?
kind of.
Okay.
But whatever. But it's definitely getting better,
Is it
and I'm
headgear?
feeling relief. No, I never had headgear.
Did you have braces?
I did, but I never had to have a
Did
night
you have braces,
brace.
Jeremy?
I had braces and a retainer. As a kid, not as an adult.
But I guess my main Shonda of this week is that after the high holidays and Sukkot and Shemini Atzeret and Simchas Torah, I was like, "Ugh, it's going to be so calm. And I'm just going to ride into the
No,
winter.
because the avalanche of stuff that you put off for the holidays has now come.
I am so busy over the next couple of weeks that like I'm looking at my calendar to try and figure out a day that I don't have to work, and I cannot find a day.
We're still working 6 days a week in my office just to keep up with
This
everything.
week is
It's crazy.
This week is 7, and then next week because of Thanksgiving, it's not 7, but
Well, I'll be here for services.
right. So it is 7. Well, no, because you're taking off for your birthday.
I will be taking off for my birthday.
But
It's in his contract.
My Shonda of the week
right.
is that it's still busy, and I thought it was not going to be as busy after we ended the holiday season.
Well, here is to a good week for everyone. Safe travels for those of
safe
you
in your
who are
travel.
going out of town. Eat a lot of good food.
Happy Thanksgiving.
And
That-
Shavuot Tov, everybody.
Wait a minute. That's the cue for you to read the piece of paper, Ben.
You have been listening to Havdalah Happy Hour on the Bethel Podcast Network, and you can find all of our shows wherever you go to listen to your favorite podcasts on Bethel Congregation's YouTube channel. Remember to follow us on all of our social media platforms, including but not limited to Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search Bethel Balto. Shavuot Tov, everybody, and have a
Shavuot
wonderful week.
Tov.
Silence your phones and shul.
Silence them, sure. You'll go to Olam Haba.